Happy Halloween and a Merry All Souls Day, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I know technically the calendar has passed, but we have not been on since early in the month, so I still say it's Halloween. I still say it's All Souls Day. And this is Vandal Drummond, joined with Alfredo Esparza. How are you, Alfredo?
I'm doing great. I'm doing better than you today, apparently.
Yes. If people notice that my voice sounds a little more laid back, lax, no, I am not stoned, although I probably wish I was. I have just a simple head cold. And my dear sweet Elena is in the next room fast asleep. She, too, is under the weather, seasonal stuff. And so I'm just don't want to wake her. So I'm talking with quite a delicate voice, as if I'm some Dickensian character just trying to spread love and good throughout the world. Well, I brought up Halloween early on. We had a pretty cool Halloween celebration. Fredo and I.
Do we start with that or with the Figure-4 Luncheon?
I'm sorry?
Do we start with that or the Figure-4 Luncheon?
Yeah, do we want to go in calendar order or...
we did... When was the Figure-4 Luncheon? That was like 3 weeks ago already, wasn't it?
I think that was the... let's see, was it October 8th? Because it was the same day as when Cain Velasquez made history at UFC, which is pretty awesome.
That was like a month ago? Wow.
Was it that long ago? Am I remembering? Man, I'm getting old, man. We're not even 5 minutes into the show, and already I'm trying to figure out what happened 3 weeks ago.
That was probably 3 weeks ago, though.
Yeah, well, it was a really cool gathering before the Cain Velasquez Brock Lesnar fight at the Pond in Anaheim. Or it's not called the Pond anymore, is it? It's called something else. The Honda Center.
Yeah, the Honda.
We had a pre-UFC get-together that was organized by one of Brian Alvarez's friends, Sean Garrett, and we went to the gathering and got to meet a whole bunch of really cool people from the Figure-4 Empire, a lot of really nice folks. And first time I had seen Dave Meltzer in about 5 years, probably about the same amount of time I last saw Brian Alvarez. Mm-hmm. And the first time I have seen our good friend D.R. Luch, Steve Sims, in 14 years. So It was an awesome gathering. And I think it was the first time you met all these cats, isn't that right?
Yeah, it's the first time I met all of them. And surprisingly, they all knew who I was. Yes,
everybody recognized your name right away.
Despite you claiming to believe, or actually you believing that Brian didn't know who I was. Remember we were arguing about that whole thing? And I did ask Brian if he actually indeed hated me, and he confirmed that he didn't. He apparently thinks I'm a fine young man.
I knew that he would like you, and I knew that he knew who you were.
Yeah.
That I had no doubt of.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure people would probably know who I am just from the name.
Yeah, your name has floated around via both the podcast and slambamjam.com.
Yeah, and Lucha World and all that stuff. So.
But this was a really cool bunch. Also, how could I forget Brian's friend Vinny, who's a really cool guy.
Very laid back.
What a big guy he is.
Yeah, but it's very laid back, though. I was surprised.
Totally laid back. Yeah. I mean, if he just had shoulder-length hair, man, he would fit right in with that Northwest farming scene, the kind of laid-back herb farmer.
Yeah.
It's funny, when I say he was big, though, when you hear all the jokes made about him on the Figure-4 podcast, I pictured him as a pretty rotund guy, but no, he's tall, he's stocky, just like a big strapping dude.
You know what it is? Like when you wrestle and you're showing more of your body, you do look a little fatter. So.
That's true, because, the typical wrestler has a almost superhero-type body, whether he's big, little, or small, so perhaps he stands out since he doesn't have that modern pharmaceutical physique.
Yeah, and I got a chance to talk to Dr. Lucha. and get a lot of insider news that I will not share with anybody.
Oh, very cool. Not even me.
No, not even you.
Oh, man.
I'm keeping it to myself.
Oh, you get the best secrets, and what bugs me about it is you keep those secrets, too.
Yeah, I do keep the secrets because I forget them half the time.
You're way too heroic and loyal, you know?
You know, we tend to forget everything that people tell us anyway, so... You know,
at least I do.
We're always like, I mean, every time we go to like a wrestling show, so many things going on, we really don't have time to pay attention to everything. So
yes, yeah. Which is a great segue into Lucha Va Voom because
speaking of not paying attention to anything.
Oh, and that's what I love about Lucha Va Voom. For those of you who have not heard of Lucha Va Voom, even though I think most of you have, Lucha Va Voom is just it's like a nightclub wrestling show, only it's held in arenas much bigger than nightclubs. And it's a mix of lucha libre, incredibly strange wrestling, and burlesque. Between every lucha mask is... did I say lucha mask?
Yeah.
I did, didn't I? Yeah. In between every lucha match, every lucha bout, they have these really cool burlesque acts, these old-school burlesque acts. You know, I'm not just talking about silicone strippers just kind of shaking their tatas everywhere. I mean...
Not that there isn't that sort of thing, but...
Yeah, there's always a call for that, but no, this was awesome. And what was the name of the two sisters? Was it the Wow Wow sisters?
Yeah, the Wow Wow sisters started it off.
Who did this awesome striptease on a trapeze. And it just wasn't, like, gimmickry. I mean, these girls knew how to work that trapeze. This was awesome shit.
Yeah.
And what we saw a number of local L.A. wrestlers, almost all of them under a different gimmick. We saw our old friend Acero Dorado wrestle as the Chupacabra.
Mm-hmm.
And... what's that?
Dr. Maldad.
Dr. Maldad, that's right.
Yeah.
We saw the Crazy Chickens. I mean, that was the coolest thing. I mean, this was a Titanes and El Ring meets Incredibly Strange wrestling gimmick. And the reason I referenced as to not paying attention to what happened was this is a type of show where you don't sit there and just, you know, try to figure out how each match was worked, how it was paced. You know, was it 5 stars? Was it a dud? Yada, yada. This was just a show. This was a show where probably 98% of the people were non-wrestling fans who were there drinking themselves into oblivion and just having a blast. And it was just so fun seeing people just pop for simple topes and
you know,
it had been a long time since I had so much fun at a wrestling show. It was just fun just sitting there and watching the whole crowd just be so into it. I mean, they seemed to be having such a great time. And I mean, I can't speak for the wrestlers because I didn't speak to any of them, but they seemed to be having a blast too.
Well, you know the thing. The matches were actually really good, though. So
they were. Yes, they were really good.
Even if you think it's not going to have any type of work rate, the matches are actually pretty good. You know, they play up to the crowd a lot, though. But I mean, they're still really good matches.
They do. This is the type of show I really think that there is something for everybody in these shows. You know, I guess when I talk about the fans paying attention to what happens, maybe I'm referring to just the small group of hardcore fans who are really looking for everything in a match. You know, some of the ROH or the PWG fans, and you know, I'm not bagging on them or anything, but it was just so much fun to just watch a show that was just sheer fun. And you're right, the workers were great. They were great physical workers. I loved the opening match that was actually done pure old-school lucha style with, you know, the Tres Cuatros and the Latigos, and they actually even worked on the right side of the body, which you're seeing less and less of. So, yeah, like I said, there's something for everybody. For me, the old man who loves old-school lucha, it was fun to see that.
Well, you know, the funny thing is when they start the show, they start talking about how they're bringing the best of Mexican lucha libre, and I'm like, half these guys aren't even Mexican, you know.
So true. You're looking at T.J. Perkins and
yeah, and Scorpio Sky, who I'm pretty sure he walks down the street, you won't think he's Mexican. You know?
Exactly. Yes.
Or T.J. Perkins, you know. But what I found out, it's so hard to keep track of the matches anyway, because you're looking at the crowd too, because there's so many different looking, like, I guess because it's Halloween too. There were people dressed up, so you have like those girls dressed like those goth chicks, you know. I don't know
exactly. There were a lot of people in costume, and then there were some people where you weren't certain whether they were in costume or not. But then there were people who were just part of the whole like trendy scene in L.A. This, by the way, took place at the Mayan Theatre in downtown Los Angeles, which is one of those old movie houses. In fact, I should have thought to look up some of the history on that place. It's one of the buildings that has survived, the onslaught of time and progress. Very,
nice place,
really nice. Even if you're not going there for Lucha Va Voom, it's worth going to that building just for any kind of a show. Beautiful place.
The way they have it fixed up too is really nice too.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. It was really fun. Before the show started, there were, like I think 3 or 4 different screens, in odd shapes that were showing Santo, Blue Demon, and Mil Mascaras movies to warm the crowd up.
We kind of got tired of it after a while.
That's true. Yes. It did get me thinking. Wait, did I see this Santo film?
Yeah. Well,
and then after they played it enough times, I realized, well, if I didn't then, I have now.
It was the music more than anything, because it was the same song going like for five times in a row. You're kind of tired of hearing the
That's
same
right.
song.
It was Spanish covers of American pop hits from the 60s.
Yeah.
I remember there being a Kinks and a Who cover, and at least one Rolling Stones cover, too.
Yeah.
And one of those things that's cute and charming, and after a while you're like, okay, start the show. We've heard this song 3 or 4 times now. Hearing Wooly Bully in Spanish is cute, but when you hear it one too many times, it's like, okay.
Did you see the video I posted on your Facebook page of Heino?
You know what? I saw that you posted it, but I haven't watched it yet. And, in fact, why don't you fill folks in on Heino?
Well, we're at the show. And I'm looking around. I tend to pay more attention towards the crowd when I get there, just to see who's out there. And I see a soldier, and right next to the soldier is this guy who looks like an Andy Warhol lookalike. And that's what I thought it was. I thought it was like Andy Warhol, and he does his whole thing. And so I assume it's Andy Warhol. And right when I'm getting ready to write about it, I remembered they had mentioned his name was Heino, and I was like, okay, Heino. I can't remember.
Yeah, I thought it was somebody dressed up as Andy Warhol for Christmas or Halloween.
I figured they just renamed him to Heino, and I was like, okay. So I wrote, a guy named Heino was under an Andy Warhol lookalike. So then Tom K., who I've actually kind of known online from years, from him being on various message boards I'd been on, mentioned that this was some guy from Germany who was kind of one of those guys who ends up being popular. One of those singers that becomes popular with the underground.
Interesting. So he's not just simply an homage to the late Andy Warhol, then.
No, there's a German guy called Heino.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Jose and a couple of people posted on your page about it. I was like, I have no idea who that guy is, but he just
I got to watch that YouTube video. Just as I do all the time, I watched a little AAA from a few weeks ago before the show started. But I have a whole ton of YouTube videos that I have had emailed to me.
Oh, God, people are emailing you YouTube videos?
Oh, yeah, and not just wrestling folk. I mean, just, friends, hey, you got to see this video. Hey, this is funny. Or this is so kinky, I can't believe it made it to YouTube. And
is this based off of your Facebook page? Like friends?
There's a few on Facebook, but most are just emails that, friends or friends from work, that kind of stuff have sent me. So,
okay.
And, I try to keep up on these, but I have failed in these last few weeks.
Yeah, I was wondering where you were. I was like, man, Kurt hasn't replied to this video. What's up with this guy?
Yeah, believe it or not, since the show Thursday, had a very, very busy week. And, in fact, I can tell you without even pause for thought that sitting here and just talking on the podcast right now is the first time I've actually come home and actually just sit back and relaxed.
Jeez.
So this is actually kind of nice. The podcast is actually therapeutic, I must say.
You have a caller.
Who is the caller?
Oh, I guess it must be me.
Oh, dangerous Dan Farren, the Shootfighter from Sherman Oaks, Studio City.
Dan's going to share with us. Dan's going to share with us inside secrets of MPW.
That's right.
Well, actually, I want to mention first. Oh, actually, Mr. Brown, I had said that I was going to only be able to appear for a short time, but things have changed, and now I will be able to annoy you for the entire show.
Oh, my God. Oh, man, how am I going to sleep tonight now?
I know, exactly. Well, that's what most people say after listening to this show anyway. But,
but yeah, the entire 24 people who listen all have their insomnia cured.
Well, actually, you guys, it was very interesting to listen to you talk about the Lucha Va Voom show. Actually, I'm a big movie buff and theater buff around here, so I actually know a little bit about the Mayan.
In fact, I was telling Fredo that I wish I had done a little research on it, and actually
there used to be tours where you could take tours through, and it has a fascinating history. It goes back to 1927.
Wow.
Is when it first opened. It was a theater, and then what they did inside the theater changed depending upon how the economy was. And in the 1940s, it became like a second run house where they would show movies after their first run. And then eventually it became a burlesque theater for a long time. In the 70s, it was an adult movie theater. It was a porno theater.
Really? The Mayan of all places.
I found out about that.
They had to close it down. Why? Well, that's interesting because Ivar Theater, which I don't know what has replaced it, but the Ivar Theater, I think, started out as a stage theater and became one of the most famous strip joints in the 70s.
Yeah, and it actually also was a burlesque house at one point, and they actually had some of the films that actually played there were shot in the basement, according to
really?
Yeah, exactly. And then it became a Spanish language theater after that, where they showed a lot of Mexican movies. And I think also, I'm not positive, but I think there also was some South American stage shows they used to do there at one point. And then around 1990, it was declared eventually a historical landmark because it goes back. It was designed by the same people that did the El Capitan and the Wiltern Theater.
Yeah.
So it has all that whole, and of course, since it is called the Mayan, it has a lot of, at least originally had a lot of Mayan paintings and frescoes and things like that in there. And it's also been used in movies. They used it in the Kevin Costner, Whitney Houston movie, The Bodyguard.
Oh, yes, yes.
And also it was used in... It was used in a 1970s Jack Lemmon film called Save the Tiger, which he won an Oscar for, which is a great film. It's one of those films that's kind of forgotten today. It's not around a lot. But
here's something funny. I remember that title very well from when it was made, and being, I think, like a teenager and just wondering, Save the Tiger, what the hell is that about? Because it was just such a cool title for a movie.
Well, the reason I'm familiar with it that much is I worked in the movie theater in high school, and it played for about a month and a half, so I saw it a lot.
Wow.
So I am very familiar with it. But yeah, it's a great old theater. It's done a little bit of, it's like a journeyman wrestler. It's been around and done a little bit of everything. And
Beautiful
I'm just so glad that they're using it now and they've restored it back to the way it used to be. But there's tours that you can take of it, and it really is an amazing theater. And like I said, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to make the trip with you guys, but I'm hoping to next time when they come back.
Next time we have to really pencil it, and you must go to. This is one of the most enjoyable.
I think they're back around Valentine's Day, aren't they? They usually hit.
Yeah, that sounds right. That would be a great way to take into Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I imagine it was a great place to see it.
And I don't want to segue into anything else before giving a huge thanks to Cassandro El Exotico, who was very, very nice, very gracious to both Fredo and I. What a nice guy. I mean,
really nice guy.
Yeah, I remember hearing Bix's interview on his podcast about a year back with Cassandro, and I just thought, God, I wonder if he's as nice as he sounds in this podcast. And I always think of everybody I know who's ever met Mick Foley just remarks what a really wonderful, nice, personal guy he is, and I say the same for Cassandro. Just very friendly, very personable, seems genuinely interested in, what your trip is and everything. So, So you got to meet him too, Dan. Really nice person.
What is your trip, Kurt?
I'm still trying to figure out my trip.
Can you fill that in for me? I'd like to know.
I'm 48 years old, and I still have not figured out what my trip is. I'm not searching for it. I'm just kind of like, just grasping around, just, swatting at it like flies. I think it's here somewhere.
Yeah,
pretty much
that's okay. Here's the thing is, again, a lot of times when it comes to artistic people or people in certain kind of fringe attractions like wrestling even, normal people don't get involved with this stuff in most cases. So we're all a little bit this way anyway. I think, you may have seen I posted something on my Facebook that my wife and I were in Las Vegas for a wedding over the weekend, and we were there on Halloween, and I had one of the best Halloweens ever, and I was all excited because we got to watch a monkey ride a pony.
Yes, I saw that. That is too cool.
I posted this evening a picture of Mary Lou and I with the monkey.
Oh, no way.
We took our time to get it. It's on the Facebook page. Actually, it's also on there next to, I found an old picture, Kurt, and you remember this because you were there that night, in December of 1989.
Of Colibri. I saw that on your Facebook page.
Yes, I took that picture. He just turned 15. And that was probably, he'd only been in the business less than 6 months. And he was working the opener there.
Him.
Oh, it's very old, so you can tell by looking at it.
Yeah, people should check this out on Dan Farren's Facebook. You've never seen Rey Mysterio Jr. look so young. I mean, he looks like a baby there.
He's barely 15. He's barely 15. And, it would have been funny if you turned to us and said, see that guy there? He's going to eventually be an Observer Hall of Famer and a former WWF World Heavyweight Champion. You would have, yeah, right.
Exactly. I would have thought you're high,
Yeah.
Not that I didn't think he would deserve it, but I just thought, in WWE, no way.
Yeah, not at that time. There were no small guys being, at that time at all going into the WWE.
Yes, it was. It is still trippy to think of seeing him in the Bingo Hall and at the new Olympic Auditorium for that Hollywood heavyweight wrestling show.
Yeah.
In fact,
well, as I mentioned, actually, in the caption for the picture, that the Hollywood heavyweight wrestling show was the first show that I ever promoted on, and he was actually in the very first match. So he was in the very first match I ever promoted
against Telstar.
Against Telstar, who was actually Shamu Jr.
What wasn't? Oh, it was. Really? I thought it was Astucia.
Astucia might have been. Actually, you know what? I think that I would have to go back because it's like 20 years now. Actually, I think Shamu may have wrestled against him in the opener under the name Shamu.
Oh, okay.
I think Telstar or Astucia was either later on or had to back out at the last minute. I would have to pull that out someplace.
Oh, very cool, because I love the Telstar name. That was bitchin'.
Yeah.
So Shamu
I love old rock and roll.
To Shamu Jr.?
Excuse me?
Did Shamu have to change his name to Shamu Jr. because of the actual whaler?
No, there actually was a Shamu Sr.
There was a Shamu Sr., yeah.
Yeah, in the 80s. And I actually remember when we first started hitting the Tijuana scene, I remember seeing the Shamu Senior wrestling.
Yeah, there were some wacky characters running around down there at that point. That was the time also when like the there was Super Raton, there was Pinocchio and Super Archie and all those.
Oh yes, I wish I had seen Super Archie. That had to be the coolest gimmick, and it was one of the most disturbing looking masks I've ever seen from the photos.
Yeah, or do you remember also what was the Children Assassin? What was his name?
Oh, remember him? Nino Assassino.
Nino Assassino, yeah. And
that was a great mask.
He wore a great mask, and it was great on his. he wrestled like in little short pants. It had like a little jumper type thing, and the design on the front of the jumper was the silhouette of somebody chasing a kid with an axe.
Oh God!
And then his mask was this big yellow happy face, and he'd wear this funny little fisherman's hat into the ring, so he looked like the chubby little kid in the Pippi Longstocking movie or something.
Oh,
yeah.
He was so disturbing looking.
I
love it. It was great. I remember he did some gigs at All Nation Center too.
Yeah.
He was actually a really nice guy.
Yeah. Now, before we go any further, I do want to check with you guys. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about Lucha Va Voom? Because I interrupted, so I don't want to take away from any other thoughts you might have about it.
Just that, I think the only other thing I was going to say is, it's like Lucha Va Voom is what Johnny Legend would do if he had a little more drive and focus. Johnny Legend's thing he's always has his hand in 10 or 15 projects at the same time. Mm-hmm. I bet you if he focused only on Incredibly Strange Wrestling, it would have been something along the lines of Lucha Va Voom. Lucha Va Voom is small as far as an indie promotion, but at the same time, it is bigger than life. It is.
Well, they know their audience. They know their audience, and they developed and they've nurtured their audience. So,
yes, and something Fredo said after the show was, they figured out, let's do something that all the other promotions are not doing. Let's do something different, which I think a lot of promoters could learn from.
Now, I didn't hear the entire review you were doing, but I've noticed that nowhere, at least what I heard, did either one of you guys refer to the exotic dancers, the strippers?
Yes, we did. They were amazing.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
You get that up front?
You want more details, Dan? You want more details? I got more details, Dan.
Text me during the show, Fredo, when you do.
He wants a strip-by-strip detail of every item of clothing.
I could do that. I remember some of them.
I bet you do.
There was Lucifer who did a wind-up doll. She was a wind-up doll.
She was awesome.
Remember that? Heino wound her up, and she did a dance where she would do the dance, and right as she's taking off her bra, she stopped because the wind-up, it actually stopped.
Yeah, she ran out of wind-up. It was awesome.
Yeah, so he had to go back up and wind her up again.
Yeah, this put the tease back in the tease.
Yes. Fredo, I've never heard you so excited to talk about a wrestling show in your entire life.
This is the best show ever, Dan. I expect this at MPW from now on.
Exactly. Oh, let me give him the MPW plug, we always do here.
Before, we have more callers on, too, if you guys want.
Yeah, exactly, because we're basically...
yes, you do.
The show will not be on again before that, but we have coming up next Saturday, which is the 13th, out at Yankee Doodles in Simi Valley, we have the MPW World Heavyweight Championship Tournament, which is going to have some really good matches and people like T.J. Perkins and other people like that. You mentioned him earlier in there. Plus, Logan X is defending the Maxman title against Hell Kid, and Nikki the New York Knockout is defending the women's title against Claudia Del Solis. And that will be on the 13th, and go to mpwwrestling.com to get more information.
Because it will determine who is the undisputed World Heavyweight Champion.
That's right. At least in our minds it is. So that way, and you get a chance to see me, Kurt, and Fredo if you're out there. So.
Exactly. We hope anybody who's listening to the show in the SoCal area will check out the show and come and chat it up.
That would be great. And I know that you got a chance in the last couple of weeks to see Dr. Lucha, and I'm hoping that he also might make the trip.
Definitely.
It's going to be a good show.
And Dr. Lucha, we want you there.
Yeah, and then just to mention also the return show at the end of January, which will coincide with the Wrestling Reunion convention out here, will also be featuring Tammy Sitch and a couple other people I can't really mention just yet, but it's going to be a really good show.
Very cool.
Wow.
Well, Dan, you're talking about the Monkey on a Horse on Facebook.
Yeah.
My most recent.
By the way, did I hear Bix slip in somewhere in between there? Somewhere?
We have 2 callers on the line.
Wow, Dixie, what's up?
You guys just don't stop.
Well, who's the other caller? Hey, what's going on?
Larry. Hey, Larry.
Hey.
Oh, we have the whole crew on here. Oh, my God.
Yeah,
is this the first time we've had 5 people on at once?
Nah.
No,
it's a bunch of times.
Oh, here we go. We're getting a battle royal, a verbal battle royal brewing on Slammin' Stan. But before we get into the next subject, I would like to mention, with All Souls Day passing, the reason I was mentioning Facebook was the most recent thing I posted was I was looking for some footage of our late friend Stefan De Leon to put on Facebook, and I actually came across the very first foreign object gig that Stefan did at Moguls.
Wow.
And Dan, you remember this.
Yeah, I've seen it. Actually, I watched it.
Yes, you played the referee. I was RUR 2000, and I was a little caught off guard because I totally forgot that the announcer who made the introduction to the band was our late friend Larry Doyle.
Yeah.
And, I wrote a piece on Stefan on my blog, and I can't let All Souls Day pass without just painting a little picture of where I view our dear departed friend Larry Doyle. I have a picture of him. He is in the same place Mike LaBelle is in right now. And the reason I say that is it's heaven for Larry Doyle, because where he is, there is a whole storeroom filled of all the videotapes of Channel 13 wrestling. All those tapes that were erased in this universe are up there in heaven. And he gets to pick them out one by one and watch every angle with John Tolis, Freddie Blassie, Mil Mascaras. But that place is hell for Michael LaBelle, because in heaven, these tapes are public domain, and Mike LaBelle cannot make any money off them.
Kurt, if Mil Mascaras is listening, he just had a heart attack, because he's not dead, is he?
No, I'm talking about the tapes.
No, I was saying, because I thought you were referring to watching the tapes with Mil Mascaras, and I thought,
I guess I should have wrote that out. I should have said he was watching tapes featuring Mil Mascaras, Freddie Blassie.
Mil Mascaras would want some money out of that, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Mil Mascaras would send his lawyer to heaven to these people. Those tapes are contraband.
You might have just killed Mil Mascaras if you heard this show right now.
Actually, Mil would actually then die so he could go to heaven so he could get that money. That's what he would do.
He would, and in hopes that they would crown him the ultimate deity.
Yeah, Mil was
he acts
always
like it anyway.
Well, he always has. And Mil actually always, quite often, he, if you were to go to an autograph signing and you brought something that wasn't like something he was getting money off of, he refused to sign it.
Yeah.
And he might even try to keep it.
He even had tried to get Bart to take away somebody's mask that they bought from Mil Mascaras, because he had a falling out with the guy who made the mask, and so now any mask that guy made were, as he puts it, contraband.
Yeah.
So it's time to start a new website called milmascarasisfuckingoutofhismind.com.
Well, Kurt, because we do chatter a lot, let's give Bix and Larry a chance to talk for a minute.
This is true.
Do that.
But when you mentioned looking for videos of Stefan, I just looked on YouTube to see if I guess there were any WWF squashes or anything, and I found that one of him and Sam Houston against the Rougeaus, and the interesting thing about it, though, is because he's teaming with Sam Houston, he gets an entrance.
Yes, he did.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
What's his entrance?
He's not in the ring to my left, or already in this ring.
Oh.
And that was the one that I had talked to Stefan about that match, and I think I had mentioned this before, but that's when the Rougeaus had that wicked-looking finisher, which they would come off the top rope and do the sit-down. And I said to Stefan, I said, how do you do that without getting hurt? And he goes, you don't. He goes, that thing hurts like hell.
Oh, poor Stefan accumulated more injuries.
Yeah.
I remember I was supposed to referee a match that he had with Iron Man Mike Miller, and I ended up reffing the match after that, and I'm actually kind of glad I didn't ref his match, because Mike Miller gave him a really stiff monkey flip, catapulted him as hard as he could, and Stefan, broke his ankle. Oof. I mean, it was a bad break, too. This wasn't something that he just, like, walked away from.
You know, we need to get Dan to talk about?
Edouard Carpentier.
Edouard Carpentier.
Oh yeah, I would love to actually to just to mention that because when I first moved out to Southern California in 1974, I started going to the matches at the San Bernardino Arena, and and this was Carpentier's stint during that time from 74 to 75 was kind of textbook to the way they used to do it in the old days of the territories. He was there for about 6 months. He came in the fall.
Now he was coming from.
Yeah, what's that? Whose noise is that coming from? We're hearing. Look.
Yeah.
Is that? Could that be Larry's phone? Larry, is that you?
Yeah. Well, I'm on the freeway talking, so.
I thought I heard a shortwave CB radio or something.
Larry, are you locked in a trunk? Is that what is going on? No.
Oh no. I would have gotten out of it, believe me. I got ways to do that. But,
so will we call you the Houdini of professional wrestling?
Right. Are you on a limited time, Larry? I don't want to take it away from you.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm not on a limited time. No, I'm just driving on the freeway. I just got off work. You know, traffic, West LA traffic is not good. So,
and what better way to pass the time than to listen to Slammin' Stan podcast number 42?
Well, yes,
and that's why that is why I'm doing that. Real quick, I wanted to.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Real quick, I wanted to mention somebody that might be coming to the show is a friend of mine, someone I work with. Our place of employment is a son of Iron Mike Sharp Sr., Digby Sharp, may be coming to the MPW show.
No way.
Wow, that would be great.
I actually met him once, like 25 years ago, at Mike Sharp's house with Dr. Jerry Graham.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I would love to see him. I doubt he remembers me, but I'd love to see him. Who could forget the name Digby?
Yeah, Digby. Digby's a great guy. He's I guess there's some family problems which I don't know too much about except for what he told me. But he wants to come watch the MPW show.
That would be wonderful.
A local show since Slammers. What's that called? Slammers Wrestling.
Yep.
With Vern, I guess he still talks to Vern Langdon. Oh.
Well, somebody has to. No, I'm sorry. No, Vern.
I love it.
If you find out, Vern, don't get pissed. I'm just joking. All right.
Oh man. Yeah,
but
Lord. Yeah, he did mention that. I haven't heard that in years.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, we were starting to talk about the passing of Edouard Carpentier.
I'm going to go back, because he had wrestled in Los Angeles in the 60s, and this is one of those things where I was really excited because, through the wrestling magazines and everything, this was a big name star. This was a former world champion, and he had this great reputation, and he was almost 50 at that point when he came out here, but he was still doing a lot of moves. Now, he wasn't really.
I don't think he was that old in the 60s.
Yeah, he was actually not in the 60s. This is the 74.
Oh,
okay. 74, he was about 47, 48.
Oh, okay.
In amazing shape.
And he was in amazing shape. Now, he was never what you would call like a real, like a high flyer, like in the way the high flyers are now. But he would do these great flips and dives and jumps and things like that were not being done by anybody else. And when he first came in, he just basically went through the jobbers on TV, and then I saw him in a couple really good local matches against Tony Rocco, scientific matches, and really got to know that this guy was pretty good. And he was not a great interview, but what they did was I think he even may have had a match with Dino Bravo, who at that point was 240 pounds. It was more of a high flying wrestler at that point, but. It was basically, like I said, textbook for the old territories. He came in, he had a bunch of matches, he moved up the ladder. Then on Christmas night in San Diego, he beat John Tolis in a cage match for the Americas title. And, he worked the Battle Royal. He was Andre the Giant's tag team partner when Andre made the pass through the territory around the first of the year in 75. And then lost the belt to Greg Valentine on when else? Valentine's Day in 1975. And then basically left the territory soon after that. One of the things that Kurt and I have always joked about was that Edouard Carpentier was probably one of the first wrestlers who ever broke kayfabe to me. And that goes back to January of 75. Bobby Shane was coming through the territory on the way back from Australia where he had been wrestling, and was headed down to Florida where, sadly enough, he would be killed in a plane crash a couple months after that. But he came through just basically to do a couple matches, and Carpentier wrestled him on TV and retained the title. And a pretty good match. I wish that existed to this day.
I actually remember seeing that on TV.
Yeah, it was a really good little match. And what was funny about it was the way the San Bernardino Arena was set up is the guys would come out of the dressing room and they could stand in the back there and they could watch the matches that were going on. And sometimes the guys would sit down in the back row because that way they wouldn't draw attention, and the guys were always very, very careful about drawing anything away from the ring. So Carpentier came out and he snuck over and he looked at me and he said, may I sit down? I'll do a bad Pepe Le Pew here, but may I sit down? And I said sure. And he sat down next to me and he watched the match. And I kept out of the corner of my eye, I kept watching him because I was curious to see, how he watched the match. And it was Bobby Shane against a local guy named Country Boy Dean. And it was pretty much a kind of a glorified squash match. And Shane was using the figure-4 leg lock. And he was setting up for it, and about 30 seconds before he slapped it on and got the submission, Carpentier turns to me and smiles and goes, the finish, and got up and left.
And didn't he work as in the WWF as an official or something?
He was actually an announcer.
Yeah,
he was
I remember that.
Yeah, he came. He was doing some announcing with the Montreal. A French Canadian, he was doing the Montreal announcing, and when the WWF came in and took that over, he stayed for a while as an announcer.
Right. Now, I clearly remember him. I don't know why I remember this, but when Savage and Hogan teamed, it was on the main event on TV when they wrestled the Twin Towers. When Savage was beating Hogan in the locker room, I remember Carpentier being in that locker room.
Yeah,
and Savage
sure,
beat him, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably did the stuff they used to do in those days where whenever they would do anything in Montreal, they would always use him in one way, shape, or form, or some sort of capacity. But
right.
a really good wrestler, very enjoyable to watch. And I always, felt very fortunate that I got a chance to see him. And while I was sad to see his passing this past week, he was in his 80s, and he had
84 is not a bad run.
That's not a bad run, and he had a great career and wrestled all over the world. And as usual, it's sad to see another guy that you remember pass away. But he was one of those guys. I have no idea if he had any kind of background in causing trouble or whatever. But he seemed, and I always say this, because I hope it's true, that he seemed fairly normal for wrestling.
Yes, that was my impression too. I don't know proof either to support it or refute it, but it's funny, you mentioned him wrestling Tony Rocco, and I actually remember one of their televised matches. And what I remember about it is they did this great scientific style match. That was a very stiff match. There were different kind of scientific matches back then, ones where it'd be a really, light hold for hold, and ones where the two guys would work really stiff with each other, but, throwing no punches, clean wrestling. And at some point in the match, I remember Tony Rocco slowly getting frustrated and then losing his temper and laying a few forearm smashes into Carpentier. And, today, that's, people start off matches with forearm smashes and drop kicks and stuff, but they built this up to where he got so frustrated that he couldn't out-wrestle Carpentier that he let loose on him.
Yeah,
and
that was pretty much the template for those kind of matches back then. It would start out really scientific, and then somebody would get irritated or annoyed at something, and it would get a little rougher, and then when it was all over, they would slap each other on the back and hug.
Exactly. And this one, Carpentier, beat Roca, And then after the match, Rocco just kind of shakes his head, and they smile and they hug, and Rocco like apologizes, like what came over me. And then I remember Carpentier wasn't particularly charismatic on the mic, but he had this very down home feel to him, because I remember Gene LaBelle giving him the micro, talking to him, and he says something like, "Oh, this kid is really good, but he's got to learn to control his temper." Again, my Pepe Le Pew impersonation here.
Well, that was always nice about it. Like I said, he wasn't, a big blazing catchphrase guy or whatever, but he made it look real. Well, when he was interviewed, very much he was a gentleman. And do you remember also, Kurt, in the magazines, they used Carpentier in many ways to introduce Andre the Giant to a lot of wrestling fans, because there was that big story about how Carpentier was driving through the French Alps or whatever, and there was a tree blocking the road, and this guy, Andre, came out of nowhere and picked up the tree and moved it so Carpentier could drive past, and it was like, would you like to go to America and be a wrestler? That kind of stuff.
And he actually repeated that story so many times that I remember when I was doing a story for Wrestling World on Dave Meltzer, I was getting Dave ready for, the interview over the phone, and then I said, "Hey, Dave, I want to keep the story pretty straight, but I thought, how about if we glitz it up and glamorize it a little, that I'm going to claim that I was driving up Highway 1 around the Redwoods, and didn't even have to say another word. Dave just burst out laughing, because he knew what I was going to say. There was a big tree across the road. And this news writer, with his dexterity and mental capacity, was able to move it out of the road magnificently. I said, "Hey, why don't you start a newsletter, dude?" But I didn't even have to go do the whole spiel. As soon as I said I'm driving up Highway 1, he just burst out laughing.
That was one of the famous stories from the magazines back then. That was one of those things where they repeated it for so long that people really actually thought it was true for a long time.
There is a great photo of Carpentier with Andre. If there's any old magazine collectors, I believe it was Wrestling Review in 1973. They were the cover photo, and it's a photo of Andre, just sitting on the locker room bench, and Carpentier, with his hand on his shoulder, like he's giving him a father-to-son talk. It's a very cool pic.
Yeah, and the caption should be Carpentier saying, "Andre, do not drink 24 beers before this match."
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, because if one of those
I'm going to lose reception here, guys. Yeah, I'm going to lose reception here in this area, so I'm going to have to call you back or call you next time. It was good talking.
Okay, Larry, thanks. Call it in. We'll see you the 13th, MBW.
See you on the 13th, man. All right, bye.
Now, Bix.
Yeah. Yes?
Bix, are you there?
Yes.
My next question for you is, what did you buy at the WFMU record show?
Oh, okay. I actually have all of them right here, so let's see. Yeah, I know I went over some of this with you earlier in the week. Yeah, for those who don't know, the WFMU is this non-profit radio station out of Jersey City that used to be a college station, and it was like so beloved or whatever that when the college closed, the radio station stuck around. And probably a lot of people are familiar with the website because of all the different stuff they have, like their blog with all the weird, obscure MP3s, and remember, in Kurt when he was when you were talking about how much you were starting to like the Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. I found that I was looking at the blog, and there was this whole thing of lots and lots of Tijuana Brass style stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, remember the thing I showed? That page?
Yes.
And it was all of this, weird, obscure vinyl stuff. So they have this record fair every year that's part of how they fund themselves. And so let's see, what did I get? I got a decent amount of stuff from them because they had a good selection at their own tables, and all the money goes to them. So let's see what I got. I got a few 12-inch singles, The Assembly, which is Vince Clarke from Erasure and Depeche Mode, I think pre-Erasure.
Really?
And another bit. He had a few, it was, I think, after Depeche Mode and after Yaz, but before Erasure. I forget. Did the Assembly, which I think the lead singer was, Fergal Sharkey from the Undertones.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's see what else. Tears for Fears, Mother's Talk 12-inch single.
Cool.
The Flip Wilson Show with special guest David Frost.
That's the one
God.
that really intrigued me.
I had that album at one time. God.
Yeah, that was $2.
$2.
What else? I got an issue. There's this British music magazine debut that came with a 10-inch LP in each issue. Got the $3 for the magazine and the record.
You must have one of the coolest collections of records, DVDs of anybody out there.
Thank you. I don't have that many records because I've only had a working record player again for a few months. My parents' collection had a pretty decent collection, but we didn't end up moving it when there was a fire in our apartment building. Almost everything was okay. A few things water damage in our apartment, but it was the records were too much to take, and we didn't have a working record player, so we didn't think about to take anything. I don't know.
So starting from scratch.
Yeah. Let's see. ABC, When Smokey Sings, 12-inch single, Tears for Fears, The Hurting. This I got for $1, Pee Wee Russell, The Pied Piper of Jazz, from 1944.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, Commodore Records.
Wow. Oh, you got some good stuff, dude.
Yeah.
I did not realize you were a Tears for Fears fan.
What do you mean by that, then? When you say that, what do you mean you did not realize?
No, it's just as years since I've even heard their name. I mean, I remember when they were on top.
I know, Kurt. What are you trying to say about Tears for Fears? We can't like them.
Yeah, Kurt. What's the deal? What's the problem?
Jeez. Oh, great. I guess I'm turning heel whether I like it or not.
Is there something about Tears for Fears that we're not supposed to like, or?
I guess I have to go from Lucky Pierre to the evil vandal Drummond again.
One guy who was selling his stuff for half off the marked price as we were leaving because it was, the hours were going to end soon. I got a sealed copy of Animotion's last album for $2.50.
Oh God.
And what else? Howard Jones, Peter Case from the Plimsolls and the Nerves.
Wow.
What else do I got here? Ultra Vivid Scene, Simple Minds, The Fix. Oh, and the Wonder Stuff that I have in the other room.
Very cool. I actually remember seeing Simple Minds years ago.
Yeah. It was a really interesting record show. I mean, it's pretty overwhelming, all the stuff they have. And FMU, they were selling at their table this thing. You ever heard of it called the Vinyl Killer? Which is a car. It's this little motorized car with a stylus on the bottom and a speaker on top that goes around your record that you put on top of a record, and it plays it that way.
Oh, no way. I love it.
And Ronnie Spector was there, and what else?
Oh, Ronnie Spector was at the show?
Yeah, with her label, her new album.
Wow.
In fact, WFMU has one of the coolest shows that I download. It's called the Antique Phonograph Show, and it's a fella who just plays old Victrolas, things made for the Victrolas back in the turn of the century.
Wow.
It is a fascinating show that he does once a week, and every so often he'll have guests on who are just fellow collectors. And they have the old wax phonograph sessions too. Just tons of stuff. Most of which, were probably just in obscurity and probably wouldn't even see the light of day if he wasn't broadcasting them. That's a really fun show to. If anybody wants to find something really unique.
I'm looking at the website now that the 78s and cylinders are played on actual contemporary period equipment.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, there was one episode, I can't remember who he's talking with, but they were just talking about, the lengths you have to go if you have to get one of these things repaired and who still makes needles for such machines. In fact, I actually have an old Victrola that hasn't worked for almost 40 years. That was in the family forever. And, almost has me wanting to look into seeing how much it would cost to get the baby fixed. But
I think Dan just unfriended me on Facebook.
No, I didn't.
Now Fredo wants to turn heel.
Exactly. What is this? Why are we turning on each other? What the hell is this about?
Hey, we're los cuatros rudos, man. We're supposed to stick together.
And not talk on the show.
Exactly.
Really, it's like us not being able to talk at all, you know.
No, I love, you know, I'm fascinated by, and I love listening to people talk about vinyl collecting, because I think of all the different, like, I put them in the same category as guys that collect books and whatever, because there's a certain kind of like a science to it. When I watch people who collect vinyl, how they check out the records and how they do everything,
Yeah.
and they seem to be almost like professors to some extent.
This is true.
You know?
If you go into one, like there's a vinyl shop on Melrose in Hollywood, when you go in there, you know, the guy who runs the store is kind of there to ask if you have a higher question, like you have an understanding.
Yeah.
And if you have something like, you know, somebody like me who says, oh, I'm looking for like foreign soundtracks or something more general, he'll grab his little assistant and says, this guy will help you. It's like he looks like he's still waiting for somebody to walk in who's kind of family, who knows the subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, there used to be, Capitol Records used to have out here in their parking lot once a month, they would have a record sale, which where they'd always, all these different kind of collectors and salespeople would come around from all over the place and sell them. And it was fascinating to go just to watch people barter for LPs, or they would, you know, they pull them out and they look at them like, like an architect look at stuff, you know, to see how much of a warp is there, how much is, you know, and how good they are. So I mean, I always find that stuff to be fascinating, because also I don't have the ear for audio. I mean, some people can listen to it and like there'll be you know, if there's one little thing, a little pop here or there, it annoys them.
Yeah,
you know.
Dan, that's another thing you and I have in common.
Yeah, you know.
Something will play and somebody says, oh, this is a terrible quality recording, and I'm just like, sounds fine to me.
Yeah,
where have I heard that before?
Oh, Lord.
Said that about our podcast.
Yeah, we've actually morphed into a different podcast altogether, haven't we? Right?
And that's the beauty of Slammin' Stam. That's what I say.
It's,
you know, it's the one place where we can, you know, drift from wrestling to burlesque to Italian horror films to Argentine comedy films to vinyl.
Italian horror films? Italian horror films?
When you now that you say it, I don't think we've covered that. Okay, that'll be on a future episode of Slammin' Stam, Italian horror films, especially the really bad zombie ones. Gentlemen, I so hate to call this meeting to a close so early, because I know we usually go through the night on these, but I am having a grudge match with a head cold, and poor Elena is having a heavy grudge match with a heavy cold. And so my sinuses and the season is gonna call a quit to this Iron Man match early. But we'll be back in 2 weeks. At least I assume we will, won't we, Fredo?
Why don't you just get off the phone and Fredo Bix and I'll talk?
I can do that.
No, we won't do that.
You just scared Fredo half to death.
No, you guys want to keep the party going.
We can't do that to Kurt.
No, we can't do that to Kurt.
We can't
you have to make me feel like the show couldn't go on without me. That does wonders for my self-esteem.
And then there'd be all kinds of comments underneath saying, the show was great at the 1 hour mark when that one guy left. You know. Yeah,
that annoying nasal voice sounded twice as nasally as usual, and damn it. Well, guys, I want to thank you very much for
joining us. We can call Rob Naylor and see if anyone notices.
We will have to do that. Have a show of hands. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back in 2 weeks. And remember, if you're walking through Southern California and you see a bright light streaking through the night sky, it is not a shooting star. It is a heavenly handful of Moncell's
powder.
Wow! Ow!